One of the hardest parts of online chess is learning how to transition out of the opening phase of the game and into the middle game. And I see so many online players struggle with exactly this problem. They play the opening fantastic. They bring out their pieces. They castle their king. But as soon as they castle, they suddenly find themselves in a scenario where they don't know how to proceed and they don't know how to actually play the middle game. Now, if that describes you, don't worry. I see this problem all the time, and I do have the solution. In this video, I'm going to break down a very, very simple two-step strategy that will help you find the right moves in any position, including in your middle games. Now, in this game here, I open 1d4 followed by c4, and black does go for the queen's gambit declined, which the opening really doesn't matter that much. This strategy, this thought process, this system will work regardless of what openings you play as white or as black. Now, in the game, I continue knight f3, black goes knight f6, and I do go g3, the Catalan opening, intending bishop g2, short castles, and so on. It's all very standard stuff. Now, my thought process, it actually works in the opening phase of the game as well as the middle game. And my thought process I call attack or develop, and it's very, very simple. The first thing you do in any position when the opponent makes a move, you ask yourself, what is the opponent's threat? If there is a threat, you respond to it. If there is not a threat, then you go to attack or develop. It's very simple. Either you want to find an attacking idea, some move that applies pressure on the opponent, or if you don't have a good one, you simply develop and bring out more pieces into the game. And don't worry, in this video, again, I'm breaking it all down for you step by step. Now here, black in the Catalan has many, many ideas. You can go, for example, bishop to e7, or b4, or c5, or take on c4. There are a lot of options, but in the game, black does play the move c5, heading for a Tarrasch opening. Now here, what is the threat? Black here is threatening taking on d4, which it's not that big of a threat yet, as d4 is defended. However, it could be annoying later in the game. Now here, let's proceed with attack or develop. Do I have any good attacking ideas? Well, first of all, right away, taking on d5 or c5 are valid attacking ideas. Are either of those moves good? Well, it turns out in the queen's gambit, typically when black goes c5 like this, taking on d5 is almost always a good option, and it does work out pretty well for white here. So I play the move c takes d5, capturing on d5. Now, I do want to point out, taking on d5 is not required. I could, for example, develop with, say, knight to c3, or bishop g2, or bishop g5. Those ideas are also valid. However, I do like the attacking idea here, taking on d5, so I do play it. And now black takes back with the e-pawn. E takes d5. All right, we have a new pawn structure here. Of course, white no longer has the c-pawn, and black no longer has the e-pawn. Now, what should you do right here as white? Well, technically, it's still sort of the opening phase of the game right here. Our king is still on e1. We have not castled, and therefore, the first and biggest priority in the opening is always going to be castling and getting your king to safety on either the king's side or on the queen's side. Therefore, with that in mind here as white, I simply go bishop g2. That is the logical follow-up. Black here plays knight c6. Is there a threat? Black here might be threatening taking on d4, but for now, d4 is supported by the knight and the queen. Therefore, that is not a threat. Therefore, I do castle my king, and black does go here, queen to b6. All right, at this point in the game, we are sort of out of the opening phase of the game. My king on the g1 square is castled, my king is safe. However, every queenside piece is still on their starting positions. The queen, the bishop, the knight, and the rook. And this is sort of, to me, sort of the start of the middle game for white in this game. Now, if you are like most players here simply do not know how to play the middle game. They get here as white, they castle, and they sort of self-destruct. They have no idea how to proceed. But don't worry, as usual, all we're going to do is use our two-step thought process, attack or develop. First of all, what is the opponent's threat? Black here plays queen b6, pressuring d4. Black has 1, 2, 3 attackers versus 1, 2 defenders of the d4 pawn. Therefore, black is threatened to capture on d4 and win a pawn. Therefore, I should respond to that threat. Now, very importantly, if I play a move like bishop e3, defending d4, the problem with that is then, of course, b2 would fall and I lose a pawn on the spot. So how do I defend d4 while also not losing a pawn in the process? Well, here, the simple, obvious move, at least according to me, is simply capturing on c5. D takes c5. That relieves the pressure. I gain d4 for my piece if I need it. And beyond that, I have additional ideas and follow-up ideas. So let's see what black does here in the game. I take on c5, and black here, of course, the queen on b6. It's under attack. Black here has got to respond to this threat. And in the game, black takes with the bishop. Bishop takes c5. Okay, a classical middle game position right here. As white, what should we be doing right here? Well, as usual, I use the attack or develop thought process. All right, first things first. Does the opponent have a threat? Technically, black has some pressure on f2. Technically, he could go, for example, knight g4, pressuring f2, and it looks maybe a little bit dangerous. That being said, at the same time, I can always go e3, defending the f2 pawn. For example, if I were to waste a move like rook to, or let's say a3, and black did go here, I can always go e3 later, defending f2, and I would be just fine here as white. So that is not that big of a deal. Now, I could also go h3, defending g4 right away, but to me, it's a little bit slow, as overall, knight g4, to me, is not that big of a threat. I can simply ignore it. All right, my turn to move. Attack or develop? Should I attack here, or should I develop? That is the big question right now. First of all, what could I attack? I could attack the pawn on d5. It's one option. I could attack the knight on f6. That's also an option. So two very valid ideas. Now, how do you decide which move to make? Well, let's think about it. First of all, the bishop move, it loses the pawn on b2. Therefore, that would not be a good idea at all. That is simply a blunder. Therefore, knight c3, to me, is the most obvious follow-up. And this move has a very, very concrete idea. White here, if he plays this, is threatening knight to a4, which would fork the queen and the bishop, which that would be very, very good for me, as that bishop on c5 is so important for black. If I can win that bishop, I'll have the two Bs, and that will give me a very big edge in the middle game. So I play knight c3. My threat here is knight to a4, forking the queen and the bishop like this, which, again, if I can do that, that would be outstanding for me. Really, really good stuff. Now, black here should probably either castle or go back with the bishop to, say, e7 like this, defending against knight a4 ideas. Instead, black in the game plays the move bishop e6. The idea behind that, black here, is defending d5, which that is certainly one idea, but overall, it's not the best way for black to go. The problem, again, is knight to a4 is possible here, hitting the queen and the bishop. All right, real fast. Attack or develop. First idea, does the opponent have a threat? This move here does not threaten anything. I'm good. Second of all, attack or develop. Can I threaten anything? Do I have any good attacking ideas? Well, here, knight a4 is certainly one idea. Again, forking the queen and the bishop. The other idea might be, for example, bishop g5, developing and also threatening to capture on f6, doubling black's pawns. I quite like that. However, in the game, I did go for the simpler idea of simply knight to a4, guarding b2, hitting the queen, hitting the bishop. A very simple, very aggressive, very strong idea. Black here plays queen to a5. I take on c5, and the black queen takes back. All right, right here. How should I proceed right here in this position? Well, as usual, our main rule is attack or develop. First of all, does the opponent have a threat? The answer is no. The queen on c5 is not threatening anything, and beyond that, black has no follow-ups. There is no knight g4 ideas, as f2 is defended. Therefore, there's simply nothing here for white. All right, step 2, attack or develop. Do I have any good attacking ideas? Well, the answer is yes. Bishop g5 hits this knight and threatens taking on f6. That would be very strong. Bishop e3 hits the queen. That would also be very strong. Knight g5 hits the bishop. That could be interesting, potentially. Maybe. That pawn could be weak if I trade on e6. So I have several ideas here. But in general, when possible, to me, my favorite moves to play in chess, the simplest, most no-brainer moves to me, are when you combine the attacking idea with development. If you can do both at the same time, to me, that is like the ultimate idea. So certainly, bishop g5 and e3 make a lot of sense here. Now, instead of that, I went for a different idea, also quite good. That is the move a3. Now, my idea here is very simple. I want to go b4 and then bishop b2. And b4 gains a tempo on the queen, which helps me go bishop b2 next, and then perhaps rook c1. So I'm combining a small attack on the queen with development, with the bishop and the rook and so on, bringing out all of my pieces and also putting pressure on f6. So to me, this is a very, very simple but solid way to put pressure on the opponent, develop, and play the middle game. Now, black. What should black be doing right here? In the game, black castles. That makes a lot of sense. Castles the move. Now, black here is not threatening anything. Therefore, I continue with the plan of simply b4, bishop b2, rook c1, and so on. All right, black here, the queen. It's under attack, and it goes to the c4 square. Now, real fast, if black were to go queen c3, I did see that. The idea for white is very simple. Rook b1, and then bishop b2 hits the queen, and white is fine. Instead, queen c4 played in the game. Now, does the opponent have a threat? Well, they are pressuring e2. That could be annoying later in the game. I can't go to, say, I don't know, a4 now, as that drops the pawn. However, the idea of bishop b2 and then rook c1 is developing, but also pressuring the queen. Therefore, it's kind of a no-brainer to me. So, bishop b2 played in the game, pressuring f6, threatening rook c1, a very simple idea. And we are almost done completing development. You'll see we almost have all of our pieces out, which is a very good thing. Black goes rook a to c8, which is solid. I play rook c1, developing plus attacking. There's simply nothing else. And black goes queen to a6. All right, right here, what should I be doing as white? Well, first of all, does the opponent have a threat? The answer is no. a3 is supported by the bishop. That is not an idea by black. And yes, black is pressuring e2, but there's no obvious way to increase the pressure. Knight g4 is not dangerous. Knight e4 is not dangerous. There is no knight move. So overall, as white, I'm not concerned by any ideas by the opponent. I think I'm fine. Now, the first thing I see when black plays queen to a6 is, what about b5? Yes, that loses a pawn, but is there some way for me to force that through? Maybe queen b3 could be good, something like that. I thought about that, but ultimately didn't play it in the game. Now, what else besides queen b3 can I do? Well, rook e1 defends e2. That is one idea. It does develop. Beyond that, maybe the worst placed piece right now for white is actually this knight on f3. So what could I do about it? Well, one idea is knight g5, pressuring the bishop. Another idea, which is also very strong, it's actually the strongest move here according to the engine, is knight to e1, intending knight d3, with d3 being a fantastic square, threatening c5, and so on. So the way you find these moves is, first of all, do you have a good attacking idea? If no, develop. Now, development could mean moves like queen d2. It could mean moves like rook e1. But it could also mean moves like knight to e1, intending knight d3. Kind of finding a weak piece, this knight, which isn't doing that much right now, and finding a better square for it, which improves that piece, but also the bishop. So you'll see in the middle game, it's all about finding these 1 to 2 to 3 move plans that increase the pressure, improve your development, and apply more pressure on the opponent. But in the game, I didn't find that. Instead, I simply went rook e1, which is kind of a weak move, but the idea is defending e2 in advance. If black were to go, say, rook e8 pressuring e2, I have it covered. Now, black in the game does go rook f to e8. And again, it is time for me to find a plan in this position. What should I be doing right here? Well, what are the ideas? Black here does not have a threat yet. There is no pressure on me. Therefore, attack or develop. What could I attack? Well, taking on f6 is one idea, but I weaken a3. So I didn't play it in the game, although that is playable. This is a very playable option for white, I believe. Now, instead of that, I play the move knight d4, which does two things. This piece on d4 is a little more active. It pressures e6, and also the bishop on g2 is more active now. So kind of a simple idea, and also threatening b5, which is a real threat. Now black here defends. He takes on d4. I take back. Black takes on c1, and I take back with the bishop. Now the reason I captured on c1 here with the bishop instead of the rook is simple. If rook takes c1, the problem with that is e2 would fall immediately, and black would be doing very, very well. So instead, the bishop captures like this. Now here it is black to move, and black here plays the move bishop g4. Okay, first things first, you must always ask yourself, what is the opponent's threat? What are they threatening? And it turns out here, this move does have a threat. The threat is capturing on e2. He has 1, 2, and 3 pieces attacking e2 versus the 1 defender. Therefore, I simply have to find some way to defend here or ignore it and put even more pressure on the opponent right away. Now here I find the simple idea of e3. The pawn is now defended. Now, this move is not without its weaknesses. It does weaken the light squares a little bit, and black can apply some pressure on those light squares. However, overall, that was probably the best way to defend e2 and keep myself in the game. Now, black here plays h6, not the strongest move. There is no threat. Therefore, I proceed with attack or develop. What are my ideas? Well, first of all, d5 is hanging. However, the problem with that, if I take on d5, black can go rook d8 like this, pinning the bishop to the queen, and that could be a big problem for me. And beyond that, if I lose this bishop, black is going to have so much pressure on those light squares, I simply don't want to allow that anyway. Therefore, I don't play that. Instead, I develop with the move bishop b2. Now, this move has 2 ideas. First of all, if the black knight moves, is checkmate in 1 move. So I'm restricting his mobility of his knights. Beyond that, I'm freeing up c1 for the rook, which could be strong. Now that I went e3 like this, the rook probably belongs on the c1 square, and the bishop frees that square for the rook. Now black here plays bishop e6, a solid move. Now how do I proceed right here? Rook c1 is possible, but the problem with that is queen to e2 looks very annoying. Black infiltrates, pressures b2, and so on, and if possible, I don't want to allow that idea just yet. So what else can I do here? Well, again, attack or develop. Do I have a good attacking idea? If not, develop. Now here I find the move bishop to f1, which looks a little bit strange, but there is an idea. First of all, I attack the queen, but more importantly, the bishop on g2, it wasn't doing anything. I'm not threatening d5. d5 is covered. It's kind of a wasted piece. I'm trying to find a better square for it for right now, where it at least helps me a little bit more. And I think on f1, pressuring a6 is a good idea. All right, here, the black queen's under attack. Black plays the move queen d6. A logical choice. There's no real threat. Black is fine. Here is white. I have 2 options. First of all, the pawn on a7 is under attack. I could just take this pawn. That is certainly one valid option. First rule of attack or develop, attack if you can. And the pawn on a7 is a very juicy target. Now, in the game, I don't trade on a7. And there's a reason why. Instead, I play the move rook c1. And here, I prefer this move for white, even though the computer does not like it as much. The reason I don't like taking on a7 is the queen is so far away from the center, and black might be able to get some sort of attack going with moves like, I don't know, knight g4 or bishop g4 or something. There just seems to be something black could potentially do here to capitalize on the very strange placement of the queen on a7. Therefore, instead, I maintain total control and develop with the move rook c1, getting my passive rook to a much, much better file. Now, black here plays the move rook c8. Okay, this right here is a big mistake. If you like puzzles, pause the video right now and try to see why this move would not be the strongest right here for black. And by the way, guys, real fast, if you're enjoying this kind of video, if you enjoy seeing me break down this game step by step with the real thought process you need to play for a win in the middle game, even the opening phase of the game, if you're enjoying this, I do have a free online chess community. It's called Dr. Mike's Chess Academy. It's on school.com, links above, drmikechess.com. It'll send you straight there. When you get there, I have so many ways to help you improve online chess, between free group coaching calls, free courses, free community, and so on. There are so many ways there I can personally help you level up your online chess. I have so many guys who are literally gaining 100, 200, even 400 ELO in their first month of working with me. So if you want results like that, if you want to learn from me how to actually improve online chess, go to drmikechess.com. I'll see you there. I'll DM you right away, and we'll get rocking and rolling. Now back to the video. All right, here. This move has one big problem. I can simply trade on c8, rook takes, black takes, and now here I have 2 threats. First of all, I could take on a7. Again, that is one valid idea. It's very strong. It is the strongest move here, but I find a different idea. To me, again, there might be something with knight g4 or bishop g4 or something with the queen being all the way here on a7. It just looks kind of strange to me. Instead, I find a different idea, and that is simply the move e4. Now, I love this move for white. I would play it every day and twice on Sunday. There's many threats here. First of all, taking on d5 is one threat. e5, forking these two pieces, is one threat. And look at black. What can black do? If you capture with the knight, you lose in one move to checkmate. If instead you take with the pawn is pinned to the queen, and I win the queen on d6 immediately and win the game. So the pawn cannot be taken, but you must defend against the idea of e5, and that is a very serious problem. Black here, what do you do? In the game, black goes queen b6. All right, attack or develop. What is the threat? Black here is threatening taking on d4, and then perhaps the pawn on e4 with the knight or the pawn. The problem is, it's my turn to move. And here I find a simple idea to win a pawn and the game almost on the spot. I take on b6. Black takes back. I take on f6, removing the defender of the d5 pawn. Bishop takes, g takes, e takes, and suddenly we have an endgame where I have one extra pawn plus the better pawn structure on the king side and on the queen side here. So I'm simply much, much better. Now, this video was about the opening and the middle game phase of the game, but let's cover the end game real fast using the exact same attack or develop framework. All right, you have king f8, f4, king e7, king f2, king d6, bishop c4, defending d5. Black, bishop g4. What is the threat? There isn't one, therefore king to e3. Black, b5. What is the threat? Obviously, threatening the bishop, and if I take on b5, the pawn on d5 falls as well. Now, to me, that is fine. I take on b5, black takes, and now here, we simply say attack or develop. First of all, does the opponent have a threat? The answer is no. Therefore, can we attack? Well, yes. The pawn on f7 can be attacked. Bishop to e8, simple chess. Black, bishop e6. Now here, attack or develop. Is there a threat by the opponent? The answer is no. Do I have a threat? The answer is yes. I play the move f5, a deflection sacrifice. The idea being, if black takes the pawn, I take on f7 with check. And that is what happens here. We have bishop takes, check, king to e5, and now simply a4. Passed pawns must be pushed. Bishop c2, a5, f5, b5. The idea being a6, a7, and a8, promoting to a queen. We have bishop e4, a6, b takes, king d6, a7. The pawn is almost there. King c7, king f4, king b6, bishop g6, threatening f5. And from here, it's pretty simple. Just push these pawns, promote to a queen, and pretty much win the game. Pretty simple. Let's fast forward, and checkmates. So that is how you play the middle game phase of the game using my two-step thought process, attack or develop. First rule is always, does the opponent have a threat? If they do, respond to the threat. If they don't, attack or develop. Attacking meaning checks, captures, threats, basically any aggressive idea that looks strong and is strong. If there is no strong attacking idea, then develop by bringing out more pieces into the game. And that rule works in every opening, in every middle game. And pretty much every game you play, that rule will apply. And if you can learn how to use that rule in the middle game, and I promise you, if you can start using this thought process, this two-part thought process, I promise you, the middle game will be so much easier and so much more fun to play. You will have such better results by using this simple two-step strategy of attack or develop. All right, guys, it's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please smash the like button, comment down below. And by the way, if you are tired of watching endless chess YouTube videos and you are struggling to make progress in online chess, I know the feeling, and I do have the solution. Go to drmikechess.com. And when you join, it's totally free to join, by the way, 100% free, at least for right now. Get in while you can. I have a community. I have courses. I have group coaching. I have direct feedback daily. I'm answering everyone's questions daily on their games, how to improve, and so on. I have so many ways there to help you improve. I mean, it's no wonder this is essentially the fastest growing online chess community in the world right now. I've checked, it's pretty much the fastest right now, and my guys there are getting such crazy results. We're talking 100, 200, even 400 ELO in a single month. My student Rolf, for example, just went 40 for 40 in online chess, winning 40 out of his last 40 games. Crazy stuff. If you want results like that, and by the way, he just posted about it. We do have proof of that, by the way. If you want results like that, go to drmikechess.com, sign up. It's totally free, and I'll get you rocking and rolling. All right, guys, that's all for today. As always, I wish you the best of luck in your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond, and I'll see you in the next video.